always, alongside me is my partner in crime, Jeff Kane. You can find me on Twitter at Bobby_K91. You can find Jeffrey at Jeff Kane. Is it 78? I don't know. Jeff, I am completely lost with the new Twitter change. I believe it's 78, but you've completely thrown my life upside down.
Yeah, well, even though I'm still fat, it was time
Big boned, Jeffrey.
Big. Well, that's Cartman from that show, South Park. Look, triple chin, brother. But at Jeff Kane 78, because I'm about to be old in 2 weeks from tonight, I'll be 38. So these things happen, Bobby.
Wow, so we have a pair of birthdays for the two men who run this program. Mine is coming up on Sunday, and you, as you just said, in 2 weeks. So we're going to have to find some way to celebrate perhaps a special edition Periscope of Inside the Hoodie.
Why not? Love it. Hey, look at this, my cat.
There we go. Nice little cameo. We'll get your cat's thoughts on the Pats offseason as well. But first, Jeff, for those who missed out on your live edition last night of the Martellus Bennett trade reaction, why don't we start by filling them in on how you feel about the most recent member of the New England Patriots?
I love the addition of Bennett. I think it's a great addition. I said it last night. Had myself a little bit of a Patsgasm.
Yeah, you did.
It was awesome, dude. It was absolutely awesome. 90 catches a couple years ago, 55 I think it was last year. This is a guy that can step up and do some really good things for the New England Patriots.
Martellus Bennett can flat out ball. He excels in a variety of areas. A lot of people have been touting his ability to get yards after the catch, to get yards after contact. Also, let's not forget here, what seems to be getting lost in the shuffle is how good of a run blocker Bennett is. So, for example, I saw Mike Loico tweet something to the effect of, even if Martellus Bennett is a complete bust in the pass-catching department a la Scott Chandler this past season, he's still going to be able to contribute to the Patriots offense on the ground. So this is a great pickup and perhaps a more complete tight end than people realize.
It's a great move, and you're right, and Mike Loico's right. It adds to that ability to run block as well. So harken back to the days of Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, and even as far back as Bill Belichick drafting Daniel Graham and Ben Watson, trying to get that dual tight end look in the offense. It allows them to come out in 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends, an ace set if you're a fan of college football, and basically setting it up that way. At the same time, you can take that same that same formation, that same personnel grouping, and they can go five wide with two players that can catch the ball at tight end like Gronkowski and Bennett. And one of the stats that I saw, I think it was Mike Reese of ESPN Boston, came out saying that Bennett has made the most amount of missed tackles out of any wide receiver and tight end in the NFL last year.
Wow, good stuff right there. Certainly a potent addition to this offense, especially, Jeff, when it comes time to get in the red zone. I think he's really going to make a difference. It looked like at the beginning of the season, the Patriots were going to be very effective down near the goal line. Bless you. It looked like they're going to be very effective in two, and sometimes we even saw three tight end sets in the early going. But Scott Chandler really faded fast, and it kind of brought an end to how the Patriots utilized their personnel packages as they got closer and closer to the goal line. Martellus Bennett, Jeff, not the only member of the Chicago Bears to join the Patriots yesterday. Shea McClellan comes over in free agency on a 3-year deal, which tells me the Patriots really have big plans for this kid.
Yeah, I mean, 3-year deal for a kid who was drafted number 19 overall in the 2012 draft, a couple picks before Chandler Jones. didn't really see a whole lot of things as a defensive end in his first couple years in the Chicago Bears system. Once they moved him to linebacker, last year, 81 combined tackles. That's nothing to sneeze at. Young kid still, can bring him in here. Maybe he fits a little more in what the Patriots will do. Reminds me a lot of going out and getting a Mike Vrabel or a Rob Ninkovich, a guy that you weren't 100% sure of, but you sign him on, an inexpensive contract. Now, the numbers haven't been released yet. At least they weren't last time I looked. And you can sit there and say, all right, what's going to happen? I like this move. Do I think he's going to be an all-star caliber player? Not yet. And no, I don't think he probably ever will be. But he's another piece for the puzzle.
Right. Shea McClellan is not coming in as the former first-round pick with that type of potential, but he's coming in as someone who has the capability to become a very effective role player here in New England. And when he came out of the draft, a lot of people loved his ability to get after the quarterback, but we're also wary of the fact that he was a tweener with his size and frame. And in the beginning in Chicago, he was overwhelmed as an edge rusher and really struggled in that role. Then they converted him to off-the-line linebacker, and then he seemed to find a home as an inside linebacker. So while he had varying degrees of success at each position, I'm sure that Bill Belichick loves the versatility that McClellan brings to the table. And while I do think his primary role is going to be as an inside linebacker, I think we're also going to see him get after the quarterback coming from a position as an off-the-line linebacker as well in New England.
Yeah, we'll find out. That off-the-line linebacker is a position that they need. You have Jamie Collins and you have Donta Hightower, but what we saw last year when Hightower went down, you were missing that. When Jamie Collins went down, you were missing that. Now, Shea McClellan isn't anywhere near as good as either one of those, but he might be 70, 75% of that, and it'll be a lot better than trying to, put it in there with Darius Fleming and Jonathan Freeney.
And let's not forget, you brought up comparing just in terms of, let's go with physical comparisons, Rob Ninkovich and Mike Vrabel. Well, when Rob Ninkovich came aboard, he was not said same league as Vrabel. And when Vrabel came aboard, he wasn't in the same league as Willie McGinnis. Those were guys that Bill Belichick saw the potential in, felt like it could work here in New England, and it did. So we'll see if the same holds true for Shea McClellan, and he's that next line in that great lineage the Patriots have when it comes to these type of additions. They also made another signing, Jeff, that I think it's fair to agree with the reaction of meh, and that's the running back from UConn who most recently played in San Diego, Donald Brown.
I can't say meh because I say, ew, really?
So you're going to tear down from meh. Meh is too high a compliment for this signing.
Meh, even that is too high of a compliment for the signing. This is a guy who got 2.1 yards per carry in 2014. 3.1 yards per carry over the last couple of years. I'm 6'1", 270. I could lean forward and get 3.1 yards per carry. Okay? And you're signing this bum. He was a bust for the Indianapolis Colts. He was a bust for the San Diego Chargers. Because he's a first-round pick, you think he's going to be great? The guy sucks. Capital S sucks.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I feel like Donald Brown had some production in the beginning in Indianapolis.
45 yards was the most he ever had.
Okay, so minimal production in Indianapolis, but nonetheless, this is a contract that they can easily walk away from. There's no guarantee that he even makes the team out of training camp. It's Dion Lewis insurance and just another body to have there, compete. See if he's a former first-round pick for a reason. Let's see if they can develop him and find a home in Foxborough. And if not, you cut ties with him and walk away. No harm, no foul. Another guy that the Patriots walked away from is Chandler Jones. That was a big trade a couple days ago. Boy, it's funny, Jeff, what a difference a week makes, as last week most Patriots fans were lamenting what a poor offseason it was, getting on Belichick, the GM, and just how inactive the team was being in free agency. Now, fast forward to this week, and they're wheeling and dealing left and right.
Bobby, do you remember what I said? I think it was on last week's Inside the Hoodie, that with the Patriots not having a first-round draft pick this year, that they'd be doing a lot of trading.
Jeff, you actually said it, not to interrupt you. You said it coming out of the gates in our very first off-season episode, and you've said it several times since then. So you better believe some credit was coming your way for another impressive call.
Nostra Fat Guy. Hashtag Nostra Fat Guy.
There it is. He'll be the first to tell you.
Maybe that'll be the new. Maybe that'll be the new Twitter handle. Get rid of Jeff Kane 70 and be Nostra Fat Guy.
It's really going to eat into 140 characters. It's going to be hard to get both our names in there and anything else, especially if we're tweeting from our account, so we have to throw Hoodie in. That could get complicated.
Perfect.
Jeff, when it comes to this Chandler Jones trade, though, here's how I look at it, and I know this is also one of the subjects you discussed last night during your Patsgasm, so you can tell me fair or foul. Chandler Jones, to me, and this is not just bashing of a player walking out the door, it's just something that's always been the case in my opinion, and I've said it even while he was still a Patriot. He struggled against the elite left tackles in this game, and he was very inconsistent. You can go and look at his sack totals by month, and they decrease each and every month. So between those realities and the inconsistencies of Chandler Jones, as well as the fact that they're gearing up to sign Dante Hightower, Jamie Collins, and Malcolm Butler to big extensions, if there was ever going to be one player to get left out in the cold, it was always going to be Chandler Jones.
No, you're right there. It was always going to be Chandler Jones. And you kind of saw that coming its way when last year they went almost back-to-back draft picks with Geno Grissom and Trey Flowers, two developmental players that could possibly take Chandler Jones' place. They, of course, signed Jabal Sheard. Rob Ninkovich is an ageless wonder. They even have Rufus Johnson, who could be out there and doing well. Chandler Jones, I thought maybe they would be able to sign all four. And then I saw the money that Malik Jackson and Olivier Vernon. And I was like,
but it's Olivier Vernon for the record.
I got it right. I corrected myself. F you.
I believe you said.
But anyways, well, it's French, okay? It's Olivier. I don't know.
After the Periscope yesterday, I felt like it would be fair for me to chime in today.
All right, so I called Jonathan Collins or Jonathan Cooper Jonathan Collins, okay?
But there were a slew of names in there, including Jamal Sheard. But as everyone who watches this show knows, you give excellent insight and a little bit of comedy when the names get tough to pronounce.
Michael Humanauanui. 4 years to pronounce that name. 4 years to pronounce that name.
On that premise alone, Belichick never should have traded him. I consider the Hicks deal a failing in that regard.
Yeah, pissed at him. Then he goes and signs people that I can't even pronounce their name. I don't even know how to say Bennett's first name, so I'm not even going to try. Okay? We already know I've screwed up Jonathan Cooper's name 8 times.
You got it down now, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, who the hell's Jonathan Collins? I don't know. Maybe I wanted a little vodka in Collins. I don't know.
Jonathan Collins is a pretty common name. There's probably someone out there. But, Jeff, to circle back to the Chandler Jones deal, let's talk now about Jonathan Cooper, the player who, along with a second-round pick, comes back to New England. this is someone who the Patriots felt very highly of coming into the 2013 draft, had him high up on their boards reportedly, and then he goes 7 to Arizona for understandable reasons. And if you read Mike Reese's piece analyzing, I almost did just say Reese's piece. If you read his article analyzing Jonathan Cooper and what the Patriots are getting in this promising young guard, he talks about how in that 2013 preseason, how impressive he looked, how he looked like he would be a player to justify going at such a high pick, again, that 7th overall, but breaks his leg. And between that injury and the mental hurdle that comes with an injury of that magnitude and a slew of other injuries, really hasn't been able to put it together in Arizona. He's played both guard spots. They thought about putting him in at center, but didn't go through with the experiment. So he's someone who really needed a change of scenery. He sounds very excited that his new digs happens to come in New England with a winning organization who's consistently in the hunt for Super Bowls. This has high risk potential for the Patriots. How do you feel about them bringing in Cooper?
I like it. I like it. You're bringing a guard who was a number 7 overall pick. You got Dante Scarnecchia back. See, I can say that name. You got Dante Scarnecchia back, and I mean he turned a wrestler into almost an all-pro right guard. Okay, so he can do the same thing with Jonathan Cooper. He can do that, and I'm excited about what he can do. He's a big guy, and he does what the Patriots like. He can move out there. There's one of those thingies going around, the GIFs or or whatever the hell they call them, of him on a touchdown pass where he's trying to find someone and he peels back off his block and gives Carson Palmer an extra second. He's got moves. I like it.
Yeah, he's very athletic for his size. He's also a big kid. There have been some reports, including Mike Reese said that he's been described as a player who you need to put your arm around and tell him he's wonderful and rainbows and ponies. I don't love that in a football player, especially a guard. I like my guards to come from the Logan Mankins school of hard knocks. But nonetheless, this is a kid who I think Dante Scarnecchia will look to take under his wing. And we know how well Scar does at adapting to each individual player. So I think that aspect of this relationship should be fine. And Scarnecchia, like you said, he's gotten a lot of people who came from less prominent beginnings in the NFL paid and gotten them to work out as starting caliber players. So I am optimistic that Cooper can be a big piece. And if not, they still have Josh Klein at left guard, Shaq Mason and Trey Jackson. So I still think that this was worth it. And I'm curious to see how it all works out with Cooper here in New England. Jeff, like I said not too long ago, tale of 2 weeks here in the offseason. The Patriots looked at a weak free agent class and decided we don't want to overspend for any of these names that we're not particularly enamored with. So what do they go out and do to improve this team? They attack the trade market, pat on the back to the Boston Fat Guy for getting that right. And now everyone is all aboard. We're going to win the Super Bowl. We've locked it up this offseason because fans they can't help themselves but get depressed when they know at the beginning of free agency the Patriots are not going to sign players from that first wave. And then they can't help themselves when their team does make moves but get overly excited. And a lot of people seem to be going overboard. What is your reaction to what the Patriots have done overall this offseason?
They've gotten better on offense. That is for sure. Just bringing in Bennett alone gives them another option, as I said to start off the broadcast tonight, gives them another option in the passing game. You said it, you're right, gives them another offense in the running game. Bringing in Cooper helps them on the offensive line. it's going to be, a little mixed match until they figure out the top 5 that are going to play together. So anything could happen there. They got a little worse on defense, but not appreciatively worse, okay? Because Chandler Jones, while he had 12 and a half sacks, you mentioned it, it's dropped down. And in his career, he only has 2 sacks in the playoffs. So that's not very good. There's a lot more that needs to be done. I liked the Chris Hogan signing. I know you weren't a huge fan. You'd rather your boy Jojo LaFell.
I've come around.
But I think Hogan can be a – what's that?
I do too. I've come around on the signing. I always liked the signing, but I was just so steadfast in the line of thought that if you don't like this free agent class, and we know this team's track record with the draft, why part ways with LaFell rather than seeing if he can replicate his production from 2014, which I still believe is entirely possible. Nonetheless, Hogan is a different type of receiver than LaFell, similar in terms of versatility, but Hogan has special teams value. He is more athletic. He's better at coming down with jump balls. So I think he's really going to work out nicely in this system. Not to mention, Jeff, that the addition of Bennett now drops Hogan down to your 4th, sometimes your 5th option. So now I like that acquisition even more.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all. I like it. And you know what? You got Jabal Sheard on defense who can step in very quickly for Chandler Jones. I am so excited to see what Trey Flowers does. Had a very productive career at Arkansas. Looked great in the preseason, and then ended up on injured reserve. So health is going to be extremely important. Let's face it. You got to be healthy to win.
Jeff, let's not forget that while no roles have been determined just yet, Trey Flowers, who seemed like a promising rookie last season before going down early in the preseason, he may be 4th on the depth chart behind a recent signing, Chris Long, whose father, Howie Long, is, of course, from Massachusetts. Now Chris Long comes to the area to play for the Patriots. I'm excited about that signing. Again, realistic expectations. He's coming in to be your 3rd defensive end and to be part of a rotation. But I think that's also going to help a player who's dealt with injuries the past 2 seasons be productive and stay on the field.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Long was the premier defensive end in the league from 2010 to 2013. Was a great first-round draft pick by the St. Louis Rams, now the Los Angeles Rams. Just a great acquisition by them. I like what he brings to the table. You're right. He's going to be a 3rd defensive end, sometimes 4th defensive end, going to be a pass rusher type of player. I like it, and I think you can get the same type of production from Ninkovich, Sheard, Long, Grissom, and Flowers that you got out of the defensive line last year.
For sure. I completely agree with that. And I honestly thought overall, especially over the length of the entire season, that Jabal Sheard had a better year than Chandler Jones. And Rob Ninkovich arguably just had his best season in a Patriots uniform, which of course means for him in the NFL as a whole last season. It's going to be very interesting to see, but I do think that position is just fine with the current group. However, Jeff, now as we look back at some of the players who found homes elsewhere, is there anyone that you feel the Patriots will regret not making a more significant offer to, or not even showing interest in, perhaps?
Any of the running backs who signed. Any of them. Forte, the kid who signed with Houston, Lamar Miller.
Yeah, Lamar Miller.
CJ Anderson, any of those running backs. Any of them. You bring me freaking Donald freaking Brown.
Might not even be on the team next year.
He's poop. He's the color of poop. Brown. His last name's Brown. That's the color of my poop, except for today because I had a couple green beers earlier, so it'll be green later on. But Donald Brown's poop.
Happy Day to all our listeners on that note. Yeah. At first I was tempted. It's so easy to look at the running back position and say they need to upgrade that area because they do. And so you start looking at the guys who went elsewhere. But look, I don't think C.J. Anderson was ever realistic, even though they showed interest because of the price tag it required to get him, since he was a restricted free agent, even with the low tender. You get 4 years, $18 million. Pats are not offering that to a running back. Let's be honest here. And then you look at some of the other guys. Lamar Miller got a big payday to come to Houston. Matt Forte is the one who, for a long time, I was trumpeting, but the more and more I looked at it, the more conflicted I felt, because Forte really doesn't fit the type of first and second down back the Patriots would go after. For as good as he is on the ground, he's not that big back that you rely on third and short situations, or when you line up and the defense knows you're running the football. He's not really that guy. So that's why I always felt, would he really be worth it? Would he really be able to provide that much more of a dynamic, or would he just be a better version of what they've had out of the pass catching back role?
He's better than what they have. Because right now, if you look at what they have, it's horrible. I mean,
but you could have said that about the number 2 tight end position 2 days ago, or anytime yesterday prior to the Bennett trade. The offseason is not done here, and it just seems to me like LeGarrette Blount is on his way back to New England. That might not be the case, but that's the feeling I get at this point in time. So we'll see if the draft changes that or not, because I know a guy that we are both very high on, and they have more draft capital now to move up and go after, is Alabama's Derrick Henry.
Oh, definitely. And we'll talk more about the draft as it gets closer, so I can actually study up. I haven't been doing that lately. But, I mean, if you really look at it, they got 11 picks. Bill Belichick, draft 4 running backs, baby. Draft 4 running backs. Replace Brandon Bolden. He bites balls. Donald Brown, yeah, thanks a lot, Bill. Thanks for showing up. Dion Lewis, listen, I love Dion Lewis. I said it last night, but he's going to be terrible this year, guys. He's not going to be that same player. Everyone says, oh, Adrian Peterson, he came back and ran for 2,000 yards after an ACL. Adrian Peterson's one of the best backs of all time. Dion Lewis can't stay on the gosh darn field. He tore his ACL, and he's a guy who relies on cuts. He's done. He's gone. He's out. And James White, well, he's just in the doghouse because, you know, he thinks Josh McDaniels should hand the ball off.
Look, you very well might be right about Dion Lewis. It goes against my nature to definitively write someone off so early before training camp even gets underway. And we've both talked about and made those points about Dion Lewis's injury history and how he plays and the fact that he needs to tweak that. But you could have said the same thing about Steph Curry and his ankles, and he made the necessary changes. He obviously worked with the right people to start putting more pressure on his hips, on his glutes, and on other areas to take pressure off of his ankles. With Dion Lewis, it's similar, but of course it's the knees instead of the ankles. And you and I aren't in there in the gym with him, so we don't know if he's working on that or not. And so for all we know, he's not.
I'm in the gym with him every freaking day.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it. Look at those pythons. I'm telling you, if the Pats really do want a big back, I would take Jeff Kane over LeGarrette Blount in a heartbeat. You'd probably take the Inside the Hoodie discount to come aboard as well.
Just pay me what I make now. Just pay me what I make now.
Amen to that. And so when it comes to Dion Lewis, I'm not willing to write him off just yet. If he gets out there and is making 8 jump cuts every time he touches the football, then I'm going to have the same feeling I did well before he got injured last season, and that is he can't sustain this. Derrick Rose is a similar style in basketball, and he has trouble staying healthy. Dion Lewis, it's a similar story, so he has to change his style, but without actually being there to see what he's working on and how he's rehabbing, there's no way for me, at least, to say definitively Dion Lewis is toast. Just my opinion.
Larry Bird. Larry Bird. Well,
Now,
I mean, you sat there and mentioned, Steph Curry and Derrick Rose. I'm mentioning Larry Bird. It's, St. Patty's Day, baby.
That's right. I love it. I'm all for a Larry Bird shout out on this show. Jeff, bringing it back to the football team that plays in Massachusetts. We talked just now about players they might regret signing, and what a shock that the conversation revolved around the running back position. Is there anyone still out there in general? Doesn't have to be a running back. It can if you feel that way. Of course, our loyal viewers know that's your favorite position on the football field. Is there anyone out there, running back or any other position, that you feel the Patriots should go after?
Yeah, running back. If you really look at this, really, I know it's cliche that, Jeff says he wants a running back. It's cliche. I know I'm a broken record, like a broken clock. I'm right at least twice a day. That's fine. But I'm looking at it, and all right, so your quarterback position is healthy with Tom Brady and Jimmy G behind him. Your wide receivers are obviously, pretty good. I'd like to see them maybe add another wide receiver, but with Keyshawn Martin and, I hate to say it, Aaron Dobson, they may have something there. Even I muffed the punt Harper and cost my team home field advantage. He could turn out to be something good. Tight end is obviously great. I like what they've done on the offensive line. I mean, just adding Dante Scarnecchia is going to help, and health is going to help hugely on that offensive line. Once Nate Soldier went down, and then Sebastian Vollmer went down, and you had Brian Stork in his second game back playing right tackle, it's amazing that Dave Googs was able to get what he got out of them. So that'll be big. I like what they got on the defensive line. Another a slot corner would really make me happy. But running back, really, if I'm looking at anything, Donald Brown, Brandon Bolden, Dion dragging my knee Lewis, and James White, they don't bring me confidence that they can run for 4 yards a carry. They can't even run for 3.5 yards a carry. So I know it's a passing league, and everyone sits there and says, "Oh, you got to pass, you got to pass, you got to pass." Look at the two teams in the Super Bowl last year. They won on defense and running the ball. I mean, you had a quarterback who was horrible, and everyone sits there and they sit there and go, "Oh, Peyton Manning didn't win that Super Bowl. It was the defense and this and that." Well, you know what? Peyton was there. He didn't make mistakes. He didn't make mistakes in the AFC Championship game. Handed the ball off to C.J. Anderson for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. These things happen. Reminds me very much of how the Patriots started things before Tom Brady was, everyone's the GOAT and everything like that. I'm going to tell you right now, I would take away all Tom Brady's stats for more rings, baby. And I'm sure Tom Brady would as well. The Patriots decided to go finesse back after the 2006 season. And it's hurt them at that time. What's that?
When who came aboard at that time?
Josh McDaniels.
There it is.
I hate Josh McDaniels. You know that. Josh, I hate you. I hate your guts. Okay? You don't want anything really bad to happen to you. No, you seem like a real nice guy outside of football. You smile. You get all jacked and pumped when you're 6-0 and beat your former coach, and then, lose 2 out of your next 10 or win 2 out of your next 10 and then get fired because you drafted Tim Tebow. But Josh, you're a terrible offensive coordinator, man. You can put up all these, and that's what they're doing here. They're basically throwing a bunch of parts that they can throw the ball to, so Josh doesn't have to call a running play because he doesn't know how to. But never mind.
Yeah, I just put no stock in the Patriots running back position at this point in time because there's not a chance that they go into training camp with the running back depth chart looking the way that it does now. They're going to draft someone. They might sign someone. Maybe they also re-sign LeGarrette Blount. Maybe they only re-sign LeGarrette Blount. But the bottom line is the position is going to change. And if they get LeGarrette Blount's production plus a draft pick who can play on first and second downs, and you add that to the mix of what this offense figures to look like with the changes that have been made this week and bringing in Bennett, and then even late last week, they bring in Chris Hogan. That's a damn good offense. And while it's not a ground game that's going to light the world on fire, and your thoughts on the running back position and how important it is are 100% valid. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But nonetheless, I still think it's maybe not a great running game, but one that's good enough that it shouldn't cost you the way that it has in years past.
Just allow me some kind of semblance of a running game. So when it's 3rd and 2,
absolutely,
and you do a play action fake, everyone in the stadium, including the blind people, know what's going to happen.
Without Blount and Lewis, the Patriots lost their balance last season. And that was a big story in how the offense just completely derailed come time to play an elite defense in the AFC Championship. Offensive line, bigger story in my opinion, but the running back position and what happened there due to the injuries was right up there with it as a 1A, 1B type of situation. Jeff, I'm going to throw out some other names that I feel are worth keeping an eye on. And the first one I'm going to throw out is one that gets discussed in our Patriots Beat message group. And I've also been asked about this player on Twitter before. So I'm going to give my 2 cents, knowing full well that you don't agree with my take on Alfred Morris. And that is that he is not a system fit with the Patriots. He comes from a zone running scheme in Washington that makes him a better fit in Denver, for example, with Gary Kubiak than it does for Josh McDaniels in this Patriots offense.
I don't agree with you, but
I know you don't.
That's fine because LeGarrette Blount came from a zone running scheme in Tampa Bay. So
different back, though.
It can
different
work.
Back.
They're both big fat dudes who can't catch.
No, because Morris is a little more athletic, a little quicker when he first gets going, but less dangerous in the second level. And Blount's the opposite of those factors, which makes him a little easier to translate into getting the ball and just hitting that. I think Blount also makes better reads when he first gets the ball than Morris does. That's another thing that makes him a better fit in this system than Morris might be. So I think Blount, I could see the transition happening a little easier, a little smoother than Alfred Moe.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want LeGarrette Blount back.
I know. I think most fans don't because that just feels like settling.
It really is. It feels like settling. And, I mean, granted, he ran for 765 yards in 2013, and he did well, in 2014, and that was having a decent season last year before his hip injury. But you're talking about a guy who's going to be 29 years old, who's on the wrong side of 250 pounds and has a hip injury, and really shied away from contact last year. And above that, outside of that one miraculous time he caught a touchdown pass from Tom Brady, it really can't catch the ball. And it just makes him too predictable.
So let me ask you then, with that said, we talked about Derrick Henry earlier in the show. There's a guy who did not show in college the ability to catch the ball. Doesn't mean he can't in the NFL, but that's not something out there on tape. So it seems like he would bring the same predictability that LeGarrette Blount brought to the Patriots offense. How do you feel about that element of a Derrick Henry draft pick, a player that you and I are both so high on?
He's younger than Blount. He's faster than Blount. He doesn't have as much miles on the tires as some of the other Alabama backs coming out.
I disagree with that.
Yeah,
their whole offense was Derrick Henry. he got the ball first, second, third, and if they went for it on fourth.
Yeah, well, that was last year. There's a lot of mileage last year. The year before, not as much.
True.
It's not like he had 2,000 carries in college.
That's fair, but just last season, which is obviously the one that people are going to fixate on when it comes to Derrick Henry, and the one where he was the primary back and really the whole show, even with Kenyon Drake. That's the one they're going to look at, and just he was the whole offense. What really impressed me about Derrick Henry, and while the mileage standpoint doesn't concern me as much, is the fact that he got stronger as the games went on, which was very impressive and sort of a unique trait that you couldn't always say about these Alabama backs who haven't always translated well to the NFL. And I do think the mileage is part of the story there. But, Jeff, we're short on time, so I just want to throw out some other names now of available free agents, and you tell me your thoughts on these players. The first one, you talk about the cornerback position, is Brandon Boykin, who, according to Pro Football Focus, over the final 5 weeks of the regular season, which is really right when he was starting to get his opportunity in Pittsburgh, he only allowed a passer rating of 65 when being targeted, and he also had the 8th best grade in coverage among cornerbacks, according to Pro Football Focus.
Bring him in. Bring him in.
Another player,
I want him.
Same position as Uncle Jeff Kane wants you, is Patrick Robinson, a cornerback who had some inconsistency in New Orleans, but then last year in San Diego only allowed 30 yards receiving once all season. So he had a pretty good rebound season with the Chargers. Any interest in him?
Yeah, I don't know enough about him. I mean, he played cornerback for the Saints. Their defense sucks.
Not last year.
Yeah, I know. Played cornerback for the Chargers. Their defense isn't very good. Let him walk.
All right, I'm probably with you on that line of thinking. And then what about running back position? So here we go, Jeff. Perk up. Arian Foster.
I'm not sure. Obviously, he is a phenomenal running back when he's healthy. He does have some ideas of what happens with this offense because of his time with Bill O'Brien in Houston. But you got to wonder about that injured leg. Is he going to be okay? Is he going to show the same thing? I think that's why you haven't seen him sign yet, because he's probably not ready to work out. But I would take a flyer on him because he could turn around and be great, or he could just sit on the sideline and while Josh McDaniels plays hopscotch.
Arian Foster is a player who I would wait until after the draft to make a decision on, but depending on how things shake out, I'd have no problem signing him to a 1-year prove-it deal. Because also, let's not forget that whereas he was in Houston, he was the man. And they treated their offense as such, revolving around him. He was getting a heavy amount of the workload. In New England, obviously not the case. He's coming to a place where they don't run the ball enough, and part of that is personnel, so it's justified to a degree at least. So I do think that, of course, lends itself to being able to stay healthy and survive a season. So I think that Arian Foster is an intriguing name on a contract that is exactly the type of terms the Patriots would like. I think it's one to keep an eye on, even though we, of course, know that it's more far-fetched than plausible. Now we go to the D tackle position. Loaded draft class. Apparently, you can get starters in this class in the 4th and 5th round, according to some of the draft experts that I've started to look at. And really haven't started to look at tape myself, but from what I've read from the quote-unquote experts, that's what they're saying about the defensive tackle position. If the Patriots do add a veteran to the position, however, in free agency, I'm going to throw 3 names at you, Jeff. You tell me which one you'd be the most interested in, which one you would have the least interest in, and which player falls in the middle. You ready? Pot Roast, Terrence Knighton, Nick Fairley, and Henry Melton, who I think is a sleeper as a sub pass rusher?
I'm gonna go with Melton second. Now I have to decide between the pot roast and who was the other guy?
Nick Fairley.
Nick Fairley first, man. Nick Fairley first. I liked what he did in Detroit. I really wanted them to sign him last year. He didn't have a great year in St. Louis, but I think he would fit. He would help with what Hicks did last year, Akeem Hicks, where Potros is more of, he's more of the Vince Wilfork, nose tackle type of thing, which really the Patriots defense isn't designed around anymore.
Completely agree with your rankings. I had it the same way. When it comes to pot roast, a situation that scares me is the headaches that he gets, Jeff. That's a red flag to me. I'd rather see another team roll the dice on him being able to stay healthy and resemble his play in Denver than the Patriots be the team on the hook for that. And when it comes to Melton, I am intrigued by the possibility of a bounce back season for a player who had a down year in Tampa but is an effective pass rusher. And then Nick Fairley, obviously, a guy that many Patriots fans wanted last season, that even off a not-so-great season in St. Louis, still has value, not to mention where he'd be on this Patriots depth chart at defensive tackle. So that's a name that intrigues me. But just in terms of cost, I say keep an eye on Henry Melton. Most likely, though, that position gets solidified through the draft, which is coming your way at the end of April. We're going to begin breaking that down more closely as free agency really starts to wind down now. It's also going to do it for tonight's show. Jeff, you got any final thoughts for the people?
No, sorry about the coughing, everyone. I've been sick here, so I've been coughing a lot. These things happen.
Well, coming to you live from Geppetto's workshop over there, it's the Boston fat guy, Jeff Kane, who you can now find at Jeff Kane78. I'm Bobby Kravitsky. You can find me on Twitter at Bobby_K91. And, of course, inside the hoodie at ITH_FV. Special thanks to the FanView Network. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers on Periscope and every other platform that we go live on. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.